Oh, you'll have to edit this part out, but it didn't do the blackout. So if there's only two of us, just so we know for future recordings, if it's the two of us, we have to wait for the blackout screen. And if there's three of us, it just goes right into recording.
Why you make me edit?
Haha. I think this is the first time you're going to have to edit one of the episodes. All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Easter, Sunday Easter, to anyone who's listening today. Hope you're all having a good day. Today we have an exciting guest with us. It's actually someone who's been friends with Dana for, I don't even know how long, a lot of years. She's holding up a lot of fingers. So as usual, you have me, the hostess Tay, and you also have the other hostess, Miss Dana, as she does her little happy dance.
Hello.
Just waiting for people to watch this video, and they're going to be trying to read whatever the hell your shirt says.
Movies. If you're a Kevin Smith fan, you'll get it.
That's fantastic. Now, today we actually have our first guest on the show, which is freaking awesome. We've been excited for this, and I think she's been excited too. This is the wonderful Miss Veronica. Not that I can speak, though Dana also calls her V, which threw me off the first time that she put it. I'm like, who's V?
She's always been V to me.
Aww.
Good morning.
So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about, I think mostly splatterpunk, dark romance, and extreme horror. Three things that I didn't really, I think I knew about dark romance. I don't think I've ever really read any. But I knew about that one. The other two, splatterpunk. Why do I always have a hard time with that word?
Wow. Happy Sunday.
Woo! And I wasn't even drinking it. I just have a cup of tea. There's no alcohol. There's no pot. There's nothing involved in this. It's just tea.
You gotta change that.
Yeah, clearly I need something to explain my my wording away. But splatterpunk, there we go, was one that I had never heard about until, I want to say Dana told me about it like a month and a half ago. It was just before the podcast. And I was like, I have no idea what words you're saying.
Well,
So
I didn't know what it was either until I was following Veronica on TikTok, and she's doing all these book reviews. And I'm like, the fuck's she reading? So I gotta ask. And I think, and we had this conversation on TikTok too, V, where I said to you, I think I read Splatterpunk before I knew it was Splatterpunk.
100%.
So now I'm like, oh God, 21 books in.
Jesus.
My Kindle is like overloaded, and now I've got like a box on the bed behind me of books that I have to share.
Yes, I was gonna say when I come over this week, like when I take you out for your birthday blizzard, then we'll go back to your place and be like, okay, we can celebrate with eating the birthday blizzard and going through books. Like that is
right.
That sounds like the best day ever.
Yeah.
Okay, so V, take us into the world of Splatterpunk.
Woo!
Well, I just discovered it about a little over a year ago now. And I mean, I think I was already watching Splatterpunk movies because like Terrifier, Saws are very much like splattery elements, right?
Oh.
So my life went to shit. And I'm like, you know what? I need a distraction from life. So I was like, you know what? Let's just pick up a book. Why not? If I can watch this, then I can definitely read it.
Right.
No, I could not.
No?
I could not. I started Splatterpunk, and I started with one book, and I DNF'd it so fast. I didn't finish it. I was like, what am I getting myself into? So that's when I went to dark romance. I'm like, this is kind of tamer because there's spice, but it took me a minute to kind of get back into, like, I had to venture into like erotic horror to actually get back into splatter, because Splatterpunk is very much like, I don't want to say gore for the sake of gore,
Right.
It pretty much is, right? A lot of the content, like especially the stuff that I read, is really disgusting, but I love it so much.
I know. Picture it. I was reading Crusader's
Spirit Customs?
while I was eating lunch. I'm like, oh, that's a really juicy part.
Oh.
You don't want to eat with anything.
I must have an iron stomach, but yeah, I was eating lunch reading it.
It's hard because there is also extreme, right? So extreme horror and splatterpunk are actually different. Like they're actually very different, but I don't really, it's hard for me to see the difference really. Like I almost want to say extreme horror is like something that could possibly happen. Like there could be like a
yeah.
serial killer, you know what I mean? That like does
Yep.
all these horrendous things. But splatter is more like, okay, I don't expect you to like eat the insides and like go into detail about how they taste and how they look. And I mean, that's what I like. I think that's like the main big difference is where extreme horror is pretty much it's something that could happen, like a home invasion. I mean, the splatter could happen, but it's very you got to be a really fucked up person to
I
actually.
was just gonna say it's
Yeah.
more like a niche, like when you're looking at it like a niche market where it's like, okay, you're gonna eat the maggots and spiders and bugs out of these like dead corpses. Like, you know, the likelihood of that happening not really high.
I don't think
However, someone breaking into your house and like ripping your fingers off and feeding them to your family or something might be a little more higher, like higher chances.
I could do that.
What was that? What was the one I've read with the chocolates?
Is
the
what's it called? Bittersweet chocolate?
yes.
Yeah, Pedro's.
Oh, Taylor, you have to read it.
Oh God,
so messed up.
What do they do to my chocolates?
It's
I'm not going to tell you. You're going to read it. And
Yeah.
yeah, you'll never look at a heart-shaped box of chocolates ever again.
I'm gonna be
I
dating
guarantee
some
it.
woman in the future, and she's gonna be like, "I bought you these." No,
Slap it out of her hand.
that's it. We're over. But I bought you chocolate. No, you did it. I know what it really means.
So, and Taylor, you'll like this part. On Discord, you and Karen, V, you and Karen have splatter chatter.
I love that name so much.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about splatter chatter and what goes on there.
The splatter chatter was an idea that I came up with, and I'm like, I need a partner. I can't do this alone. It's too much. I just because I have a lot of people on TikTok that I talk to on a regular basis that are actual indie authors. I tend to support them a lot, right? So I just figured I'm like, I do reviews. I'll go to Goodreads. I'll make them a Goodreads review. I do TikTok reviews. But I felt like I wanted to do more. I wanted to kind of stand out a little bit more. So I figured, why not create a book club where I can pick who's gonna be like on the voting list, and you know what I mean, like just kind of get more indie authors out there. And then we actually have like it's like a little channel called the Splatter Chat, like Chatterbox or something, I can't remember. Where people just talk, right? Because we pretty much wanted to build a community of people, and I think we've actually successfully done that. We've done pretty well, and just to talk about indies, because there is a lot of big names in splatter, but they get recycled over again. And sometimes it's like, let's not talk about the big heavy hitters. Let's talk about that guy down there, like Spiritual Crusade. It's a great book, but not everybody's read it because nobody really hears it, right? So it's like I'm trying to be that for everybody. So I just figured, I looked at Karen and I'm like, you doing anything? You want to do a Discord? Thankfully, though, like she takes care of all like the techie stuff because I'm not really techie. So she's like, you know what, let me do that. I take care of like shopping for indie authors. So we do 7 authors, and then everybody votes on it to see who's our pick of the month. So yeah, so that kind of, I try to find where it's all on KU so nobody has to pay anything, but for some reason the group loves to buy the books. So I'm like, okay, that's on you. I find them free, but if you guys want to watch, if you guys want to buy them, then it supports them as well, right? The authors.
Yes.
It's a fun little community. I'm actually really proud of how it's been going. And I've noticed I'm not really big on Facebook. I'm trying to get big on Facebook with like the groups there, like the book groups. But I've noticed that like Splatter Chatter has like gone there and we've gotten some Facebook people. I'm like, I don't know who's talking, but thank you. So it is fun. It's a fun little community of people. We mainly just chit chat and yeah.
And that's what you need, right? When you find a group of people who have, I'll use the word, that love for something that you have, and you share that, you're like, yes, my people. You know what I mean? You're like, I found my people.
It's
Oh, you know V and you know Taylor. Like, for me, it's always been Stephen King. Stephen King's like,
Yes.
as I've
He is
mentioned
your
before,
soulmate.
my literary life mate.
Yep.
So being introduced to some of these indie authors that you've talked about on TikTok, I started following, well, because we shared the TikTok, Taylor and I, it's under the podcast, started following some of them and then ended up having conversations with a few of them. And I think next week we have one on as a guest.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right on.
So, and like, for us, and we're gonna keep doing it, like we're gonna keep putting like maybe posts out asking if any authors want to be on the podcast, because we may not have like a million people listening to our podcast, but any type of exposure that's free is good exposure, right?
100%, absolutely.
Yeah, so
Well,
like, go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, what I was thinking now, getting to hear more about the Discord, is I was going to ask me if she'd be okay if we joined it.
I'm already in it.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes that easier. I was just saying, I know that you're not big on the Discord. So I was going to say,
I
that'd be a good
try.
way to be able. I was going to say it's a good way to be able to get into it. So that way, then that's literally. You know what's sad? And I had this conversation with my friend Sonia last night, and I will plug her every damn chance I get because she's goddamn good. We were having a hard time trying to describe things about witchcraft to each other, and we both just sat there and went, how sad is it that we're both writers? And right now, we couldn't pick any words out of the English language to try and describe this if our life depended on it.
It happens sometimes. It does.
It really does. It do be like that sometimes.
It
I
does.
say that Discord server is perfect where it gets us in contact with the exact people, because we don't want to do, like, I feel the same way that B does. Or it's not that I don't like the big writers and all that stuff, but they're big writers for a reason. They are known throughout the world. They're known everywhere. I think it's nicer to be able to find like the indie writers and be able to say, hey, here you go. Like you said, Dana, we may not be a big podcast, but it still gets you out there to people who might not know that you even exist.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And
Like three main big guys, like the splatter authors, would be like Aaron Beauregard, Daniel Volpe, and Christopher Triana. They call them the big three because they're like the big guys, right? So if you look at my page, like if anything, Volpe is my favorite out of all of them, but I don't really read their books, not because they're not good, but because they don't. Oh, actually, I mean, Aaron Bogart is very, very famous, but some people's yum or some people's icks is not their yums type of thing. So
right.
I've read a couple of his, and they're okay, but I don't really see that much of the hype. They're great, but there's a lot of indie that's very, very well as well. And
Yeah.
if you go on TikTok, all you see is Aaron Bogart. That's all you really see, and it's like, I like him, but really nice guy. But there's more than just Aaron. So
Yeah. So I know you introduced me to Spirit Crusher and Spirit Crusher's Crusade. And I'm old. Who's the author?
James Fisher.
And you guys are friends.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He is one person I would love to have a conversation with on the podcast.
Oh, he'd definitely be willing to. He's more on the shy side, but he's trying to get out there more because like he's kind of blowing up right now. Like some of his stuff, he also does Written in Carnage, and they're actually an anthology, a charity anthology.
I
So
was gonna
anytime you
say,
buy,
yeah, I've heard about that. I think it was on your TikTok initially. I want to say that I heard about that.
yeah, they decided to go with St. Jude's because they're all in America there, so they're going to
Oh, okay.
donate proceeds to St. Jude's. So he's a great guy. Like him and I started, I think it was maybe in like summertime of last year. We kind of hung out, or not hung out, but we met on TikTok, and we had we were in like the same group of friends when we first came out, but I wasn't doing any videos at the time. I was still kind of like looking in the background type of thing, and we just kind of, yeah, we've been friends on there for quite a bit. And anytime he's had like a book out, like he's always asked me to help edit. I mean, I'm not an editor by any means, but helping him throughout his career has kind of helped me to like kind of know and understand how to edit. And I'm like, maybe I can make this a thing now.
I bet you
Get some
could.
money for it.
And I'm gonna throw it out there because I know V's shy, but Taylor, you don't know. In Spirit Crusher's Crusade, Veronica is a character.
That's fucking fantastic.
And she be spicy.
Well, it was
Now
funny
I really
because
want to read this book.
it was funny because James was like, I really want to try to make this book different, like not just like violence and like just splatter. He's like, I kind of want there to be a plot. Because if you really read, so that's book 2. So if you
Yes.
read book 1, like he's just like, here, I'll explain a little bit without giving too much away. But like Leon is Spirit Crusher, aka he fights for the innocent. He pretty much kills off pedophiles. And yeah, it's freaking
already.
awesome. It's freaking awesome. So like book 1 was very much like balls to the wall, like vengeance, right? Like you see a badass. So in book 2,
So good.
it's really good. In book 2, he kind of wanted to expand his character, and I feel like from the difference between book 1 and book 2, you can see James's growth in his writing, because that's when he started writing in Carnage, and it just kind of elevated it. So he kind of came up to me and he's like, okay, I want to put you in there, obviously you're a character, but what can we do? Like, I'm like, what hell? I had just finished reading Toxic Love by Christopher Triana, and that book is very like splattery, smutty, and I'm like, do it like that.
I read that one too.
That one. I want to be like
I
that.
want to be like that girl. And he did his best. He did pretty good, actually. I'm like, you did well. Like I was proud. It was
Absolutely. When I got to the part that you were introduced, I'm like, it's me.
I about it because I'm like, I didn't want it to be like, oh well, I'm in there and everybody's like, oh my god, no, I didn't want to take that away from him, right? Because it's his book, right? So well, so some people have messaged me. They're like, are you in the second one? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, what we're gonna see a little bit.
Say it.
So if you will, I mean, we have James on TikTok, I do believe.
Mm-hmm.
But if you will, V, maybe have a conversation with him and ask him to reach out to me on TikTok, and we'll pick a date that he can come and talk about his books and his writing process and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely.
That would be fun. Like, and I mean, I'm twisted. You guys know that my mind is deranged. Probably why I love these books so much. Like I felt right at home that first one I read. I'm like, yeah, I'm home. Like, so for me, I guess I want to know what their thought process is coming up with such depravity. I guess that's what it is. Honest to goodness, balls to the wall.
That's what you're reading. Like I'm reading some of these stories and I'm like, you okay? You're okay at home? Like it's really good, but I'm like, wow, okay.
So I don't think I've touched on the dark romance yet. I think I've just stayed in the realm of splatter. So what exactly is dark romance? I can't get out of the gore. I love the gore.
It's
Your
hard.
dark romance is different.
Like, it's hard to explain dark romance because it does have like elements of like horror also, you know, like let's take a popular one, like Haunting and Hunting Adeline by H.G. Carlton is probably like the biggest, like it was very, very popular when I started TikTok. And that's what I gravitated to. I went to it, I read it, it was great. Um, it's just like even then, like Zaid, who's the main character, he is the boss of this organization that handles sex, what's that called?
Sex workers, sex trade,
Sex
Yeah.
trafficking.
Sex trafficking. Yeah, yeah, like yeah, that's a good one.
We've got all of them. Hold on.
Yeah. So that's what he does, right? So he pretty much is trying to save young women from sex trafficking and all that. And then Adeline, being the main character, gets her, you know, she's a target or whatever. So, but there's like the spice is just on another level. Like there's a scene with like a gun, and I'm like, that's not supposed to go there. Like, I know it had, it's just, it's hard to explain dark romance to me because I find it to be so horror-y. And then there's horror erotic, who's a whole other genre, which is more like that deals more with like you see more blood, you might see more like cutting, like just it's
Like
hard.
maybe the hardcore S&M where
Yeah, I was just gonna
they
say
draw
that
blood
exactly.
type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that I'm
It's
into
not-
S&M.
Yeah, suddenly.
I don't mind a dark romance here and there. You know, I'll sprinkle those in. But for some reason, once I hit splatter, I kind of just stayed there. I didn't really move. And then if I read like a dark romance, it's more on the horror erotica side where it's like, you know, like some girls being like she's being kidnapped and tortured, and that's my romance.
that moment where people are gonna be listening, go, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm like, ooh, I like that.
Literally, me this morning when I was scrolling through TikTok, I caught on one of your videos, V, where you were talking about a book, and I'm like, okay, picked up my Kindle, popped it in, downloaded it. I'm like, I'm going to read that.
Candy one, yeah.
Cotton candy.
He's another indie author that it's taken a while for me to get into, but he's very popular right now.
I think what won me over was you saying I love gay men.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I love talking about it.
I'm like, yes.
If I find an indie author that I've never read anything of them, I don't like to read their most popular stuff because TikTok is just like any other app. You can hype something up so much, but then when you read it, you're like, oh, that's it, you know? So I like to go search. So Cotton Candy, like Stuart Bray's famous for his violence on the meek. Actually, I have it right here. I bought it for my birthday. And I guess that's straight up violence, like wall to the wall violence. And I'm like, okay, you know.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so that's his most popular. So then I was like, no, I don't want that because I get scared because I'm like, it happened a lot when I was in the dark romance genre. I bought all these dark romance books that were like super popular, and then when I bought them, I'm like, they're not that great, you know. So don't fall into that little, you know. I fell into it, and I have so many books.
Not a rabbit hole you want to go down.
I was going to say it's honestly a rabbit hole that I think we all go down where. You're like, okay, a perfect example. Look at the frickin' 50 Shades of Grey series. I thankfully did not buy them. I borrowed them from everyone and read them because everyone would not shut up about them. And I gave in. I was like, okay, I read them. And I mean, that would probably count as more on the dark side. That would probably be classified as dark romance. Yeah, just because there was a lot of violence in it and all that. And so many grammatical errors and run-on sentences and the same things over where I just sat there like, I by no means, so I've mentioned before, I am a writer. I'm a chicken shit writer, so I have only published one thing in like a very tiny niche market where I was like, okay, people probably won't read this. I'll be fine.
That was only because we made you.
Yep. 100%. You're like, so have you done it yet this year? No.
Do it.
Yeah, that was exactly it. It was like,
get on that.
So for me, it's always one of those things, like, I read those novels and I sat there and went, maybe my writing's not so bad, because I am paranoid about repeating myself in descriptions and trying to think of different words, where I constantly sit there and I'm like, oh God, do I sound like 50 Shades? Oh God, is it that bad? Like, that is my barometer to measure it by. And everyone raved about those damn books.
Yes, they did.
And I read them and just sat there and went, are y'all so vanilla in your sexual lives that you're like, yes, I want to read this? And like, I remember all the reports back then. I don't know if you two do. All of the reports talking about how all these soccer moms had gotten into it. So all the guys were getting, the husbands were getting laid left, right, and center. And it was just sitting there going, really, guys? Really?
You're like, that's it? Don't take.
Like, damn, y'all have a, like,
He's like, what?
yeah, he's sitting there, you want me to do what now? And do what with the what? Mm-mm.
No.
Mm-mm.
Those
I
are
think
really
that's,
popular too. Those 50
they,
Shades, very
well,
popular.
they are. They're like the friggin', I think they're still like some of the top sold ones, where you just look at them and, like I said, makes you question so many things about it, where you're like, but your writing isn't good. How did you make a trilogy out of this? And then I think she made a fourth and a fifth. I'm not even sure.
Mm-hmm.
But you just watch it and you're like, wow.
You're like, oh, okay.
You just can't even with those things. But I know
No.
one of the things that personally I'm looking forward to with having authors of like these particular genres come on is I'm curious to hear their mindsets and how they come up with things and how they write them down, because there's times where I've written things and they seem excessively dark to me, where I'm like, oh, I made that a rather dark scene. I'm like, I don't know how the rest of the world might feel about that.
Yeah,
And
right.
then,
Probably like, it's really good. We'd probably love to eat it right up.
like, so the one story that I shared last year, and I can't remember if I sent it to Dana to read or not. I might not have. I can't remember now. But the first one that I published was actually a fan fiction set in Star Wars. So I went on the dark side of Star Wars, where it was still, because I'm a lesbian, I tend to write lesbian characters, but I also have straight ones.
Yeah.
But in it, the one basically creates something that specifically targets and kills a very specific species of other beings in a horrendous way. And she ends up falling in love with someone of that same species, but she did it for other reasons. And it gets to the point where she's locked up in a cell with her lover, who she has to watch slowly die, and ends up killing her herself to try and, stop the suffering. And I can remember writing it, and after I was done, I was like, "Not too dark? Did I go too dark with that?" Like,
No. What's
describe the blood bleeding out of her eyes and mouth. I'm like, is there something wrong with me?
No, that's beautiful. My my favorite thing when I'm looking for a gross out book, I want that author to explain in detail like what they're seeing. Like if they're taking like the intestines out, like I want them to say like they glistened as the light shined on them, or like they sounded like slime. You know what I mean? Like give that gross factor,
Mm-hmm.
because it almost feels like I'm there. And that's what I love. Like there was one specific story I read, and it was called Joel. And it was a really messed up story, but it was written so well that it felt like I was in his apartment with him. Like I could smell it. I could see all the gunk. Like she did such a great job at just making me feel like I teleported in there. And I'm like, that's what I like to see. That's what makes me really happy. So like, no, the darker the better. Just do it. And this genre definitely love that too.
Actually, which is good to know, just because that is, like, I guess now looking at it, that would probably be more the genre that I get pulled towards writing, because I like to put people into my story so long as they're okay with it. And like, I tagged my one friend in it on one of your posts, Or it's like, oh, Marissa, I know that you want it. And she's like, yes, have him be murdered in a horrible, horrible way. I want to die. Like,
Yeah.
it sounds horrible where it's like, okay, but she's read some of the stuff that I've written. And she's like, yes, it would be an honor to die in one of your books.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I guess I don't feel that a character has been developed or has enough character development if they haven't been traumatized in horrendous ways. Where it's like, oh, yeah. Well, how did she end up being such an evil bitch? Like, oh, well, her mother locked her up and then she made her watch as her lover died by a poison that she created that made her slowly bleed out and burn away her flesh and all that fun stuff. And then she ended up killing herself. But then she'd stay in the cell room with her for another 3 days so that she could smell the rotting and all that.
Nothing beats a good childhood trauma.
Great.
I was going to say, I was like, you know, it's just sitting there in the corner of me like, I swear to God, my therapist says that I'm not crazy.
So let me ask you, V, have you ever come across a book in this genre where you think has gone too far? Like you've been reading the book and you've closed the book and said, that is ridiculous. I cannot finish that book because maybe the subject matter is just that line and the author jumped over it.
I did that with the first Splatterpunk book I tried, and then it completely threw me out of the genre. And it was called Genital Grinder by Ryan Harding.
That name.
I was just going to say, that name, that moment where you're like, that's not going to go to a good place.
I looked at it and I'm like, I could do this. I could not do it. It was just like, it was explicit, like even just the name itself, General Grinder. Okay, like you can just imagine all of the things, right? It's a short story collection, and I think after I think it was a third story or something, I just tapped out. I'm like, I can't do this. Now that I'm seasoned, I could revisit it, but I still haven't, which makes me a little nervous because I'm like, maybe I can't do that one, you know? There was one book recently that I haven't DNF'd a book. I haven't not finished a book yet. Like that one, the General Grinder was the first one, but since then I have finished all of them. But the one that I sat there after I finished and I'm like, I should have not read this. It's called Suffer the Flesh by Monica O'Rourke, I think is her last name. And it's just like, the whole premise of the story is this girl is overweight and she'll do anything to be skinny. But that concept was lost in the story because I don't remember that. I remember that in the beginning and it was never really touched on later because the story from then goes on that she gets kidnapped and it's this whole like sex ring and there's just crazy amounts of sexual assault in the book, even with a dog. And I'm like, what is this? It was very
Holy trigger warnings.
Yeah, no shit.
intense. Like I was told, I got this recommendation from somebody, but I was told, I'm like, it's a little brutal. And I'm like, shut up. Yeah. This is pretty brutal. It's just the whole, like, there was so much of it, like so much sexual assault. And you're like, okay, I can handle maybe like one or two because it's for the book. But like if it was like, it almost felt like it was kind of glorified. And I'm like, I don't really like that, you know, like I understand if it's in a book, if it's the plot, but like if that is the whole plot is just all these like really crazy ways of sexually assaulting women, I'm like, coming from a woman too, I'm like, damn, you're brave. You're a badass chick.
That's interesting.
That's the only one like recently that I've been like, yeah, I've still thought about it. I'm like, I should have DNF'd that, but I didn't.
You still powered through. You're like, I think you can. I'm going to finish this. I should not have finished this.
No, I should not have. I should listen to myself more. I really don't.
I get lost on that that free Kindle app. The what is it, Unkindled?
No,
I get lost in there because I'll read a book I'll read one of the books that I see that you have reviewed or somebody else has reviewed, and I'll be like, oh, download it. Then I'll read it, and then it says, oh, if you like that, you'll like this. And next thing I know, I've got like 48 books to read, and I'm stuck on one author for like 5 books. So I did that with David Soderbergh.
Oh, David Sodergram? I think it's Sodergram.
Something like that. Yeah, his books are basically basically based in Scotland.
Yes,
Scotland,
right?
England.
Yes.
Yeah, I ended up like reading like 5 of his books in a row because I finished one book and it was like, oh, you may like this guy. Oh, yeah, I like this guy. So yeah, I've really got to figure out a way to break it up and not get stuck on one author and then read all their work in a week. Because I was ripping through like 2 books a day.
God damn, I miss those days.
It
Oh, I
does.
couldn't
It's on the
cross-stitch.
Kindle. You can like, I feel like you read like on 5 times speed on Kindle. Like
Yeah.
it just goes so fast that you don't even think when you're reading an actual physical book, it takes a little bit longer. Well, for me anyways, but the Kindle, I fly through that sometimes. I'm like, wow. The
You're
secret
like, I've
weapon.
done 3 books, and you're like, oh shit. Have I
Yeah.
slept? Did I eat? Oh no.
No, today.
What book was I reading? I think I was on the second Spirit Crusher. It was on Spirit Crusher's Crusade because I read the 2 of them back to back in one day. And I was halfway through the second one, and Norm comes down the hall and he's like, "What's for dinner?" And I'm like, "What time is it?" He's like, 4:30. I'm like, "Oh fuck, order a pizza."
Pizza tonight.
Oops.
I didn't take nothing out of the freezer.
You get lost, and you know what?
You do.
I appreciate it a lot because like when you and I were hanging out all the time, Dana, like you'd always talk about King, you know, and I always sat there and listened, and I'm like, I wish I was a reader, like you know, because it's a nice distraction, right?
Mhm.
So my problem was I wasn't picking up what I actually wanted. Like Stephen King, great, yes, but like I enjoy like the movies that I enjoyed were like really gore, like Terrifier and stuff, right? So I'm like, I'm looking for that. So I finally found it. And I'm like, this is cool. Reading's fun. I just had to find what I was looking for. And then, because even like somebody had gifted me this book, Intensity Foods.
Oh yeah.
And apparently is really, really good, right? But it's not, it's more like a thriller, right? Than it is like a splatter. So somebody gave this to me and they're like, you know what, you probably like this. I'm like, cool. I have not picked this up. This is the first time I picked it up since I actually received it. You know, because it's like you have to find what you like, and you know sometimes
I've read it. I've read it. It's not bad. It's Dean Koontz and Stephen King are kind of jive on the same line for reading. Stephen King goes a little bit more into the, I don't want to say horror because I don't think he writes horror books. The horror is the fact that people do that shit. That's what the horror is in his books, is that people actually do that. So but like him and Koontz are like, you know, wiggling on the same literary line. He's good. I believe he wrote the Odd Thomas series, and that's really good. They actually made a movie, Odd Thomas, with that guy that died. I'm so bad with names.
That guy who died. Wow.
You'll know because he played Spock in one of the Star Trek movies, the young
Leonard.
Spock.
Oh,
I can't remember saying
Yeltsin.
Oh, that kid.
Yeah, that kid. He played Odd Thomas. Yeah.
Oh, he's
And
good in
like
that too.
the premise of that series is he can see monsters that nobody else can see. So all this weird shit is happening to people, and they're like, "What the fuck?" But he knows what's going on because he can see the monsters. It's just really that's a good character to me because you can build on that character. That's what I like. I like finding an author that can pick a character and build on it.
Yeah.
Spirit Crusher.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I could honestly hope that he puts out more books.
Oh yeah. He's working on so that world has one more book. And it's supposed to be coming out I don't even know actually. I'll wait for him to tell you actually. Listen, I'm like, it comes out this day.
But Veronica's his agent.
But I do know like, there's a third book to that one. And that one, I mean, you've read the second one, so you know how it ends. So the third one's going to be like mean and angry and vicious. So I'm like, okay.
All right, I need to read these books. These are now going on my list.
Oh yeah, you'll love them. Do you have KU, Taylor?
No.
No? Okay. But they are like they're pretty cheap, his paperbacks are not bad. But even the covers are nice. He's a really great writer. And that's why like he's one of my close indie authors that I'm like, I try to push hard for him because he's not very like he doesn't really go on TikTok as much. Like you don't see him posting all the time. Like because that's what he said. He's like, I was not expecting the marketing side of being a writer. He's like, I can do the writing, but I can't do the marketing. So thankfully, like he has like me, he's got a couple other people that were like in a little group there, right? So we kind of help him and he's kind of getting out of his shell more. I told him, I'm like, get out of your shell, talk to people. Because that's what it is with like TikTok and being an author and like creating community. You have to like get yourself out there, right? Mm-hmm. You have to support yourself. And I know Tim, I don't know if you guys know Tim, Timothy King on TikTok.
Oh, yes. Yes.
His book actually debuts today. His first book, his debut, 7 Rabbits, and he has been marketing his TikTok for like 2 months.
Yes,
I have reposted some of his videos. Because it looks like a book I want to read.
Oh, it's so good. You'll love it. It's like home invasion turned revenge. It's really, really good.
Oh,
young kids, yeah. But I applaud him a lot because I'm like, you have the writing down and you have the marketing down because he has he has a website. He's, I don't like, it feels like the book is already out now. Like today is the first day, but it feels like it's already been out. I'm like, dude. And it just won in my splatter chatter. Like, so for the month of April, we're all going to be reading 7 Rabbits. So I'm like,
good. Then I will join that. I will join that read along.
Like, good for you.
It's like, I'm in it.
Yeah.
I'm in it.
It's definitely a really good book.
See, I'm going to be interested to ask some of the authors, like especially your friend for Spirit
Crusher?
Spirit Crusher, there we go. Thank you. If he has the same feeling, because I know I have it, of imposter syndrome. Because it makes the marketing for yourself so freaking hard where you're like, oh, no, like, you don't feel worthy in any way, shape, or form. You're like, my writing's crap. I don't think my writing should be put anywhere. No one should be exposed to this trash. Like, it's horrible. So I'm curious to hear if that's something that he feels.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to speak for him, but I can speak on my behalf that, like, he definitely has that. Because, like, like I said, like, I've helped him edit. Like, he doesn't really have an editor. A lot of these authors will do like art teams and beta reads. So like they'll get a couple people and like they'll help them first before it goes out to everybody. James doesn't do that. James is like, I have you, I have my wife, I have 2 of my friends. That's good enough, So, but even like when I'm editing, like in there with him, like, we're chit chatting like the PDF and everything. And he does the same thing. He's like, is it okay? Is it good? Does it sound like it sounds fine? Shut up.
Does it make sense? Is it flowing?
Yes, those are all the words. Like even that little short, little like 3-paragraph blurb thing that I don't even know what the fuck to call it. That thing that I sent you yesterday that I wrote.
Oh yeah.
Like, even as I said, I was like, oh, is it okay? Oh my god, it sounds horrible. It's choppy. It's shit. It's horrible.
And I'm the only one reading it, and I'm like, what are you scared of? What, do you think I'm going to unfriend you?
That
You might
imposter syndrome. Yeah,
Oh.
it really, because even James is like, I really don't want to send you this because it's bad. I'm like, shut up and send it. I'm like, it's probably really good, and it turns out to be really freaking good. So, oh yeah, it's definitely he'll speak more on his behalf for that, but yeah, I can speak on what I see, and I'm like, shut up, it's good.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's we all need you guys as friends, but we're like, oh my god, I know it's horrible, it's atrocious. I repeated myself like 5 times in it. I know I did. I'm certain that I did. And you guys come back and you all want to like slap us as you're like, no, it's good. It's good. It's beautifully written. Like I ended up sending it to a couple of my friends. My one is sharing it with some other people. She's like, that's beautiful. I'm like,
See?
is it?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
And
Yeah.
it wasn't even anything bad, V. Like, she literally wrote like maybe 3 small paragraphs on what it means to have a soulmate, but a non-romantic soulmate, what a soulmate is.
Mm-hmm.
And she's freaking out over it. I'm like, it's beautiful. Like, it was so well written. It literally said what I could feel like, and I relayed that message to you where when I first started at the hellhole, that and I was in Binning.
Here's that.
I remember Melissa, we were like 8, 9, 10 feet away from each other. And I turned and I looked at Melissa and I like literally shouted out across Binning. I'm like, you're my Christina Yang. She's like, okay.
You're like,
and like half of Binning's looking at me. I'm like, hi.
But where I'm not crazy, but she's my person.
Yeah, she's my person. And it's like 15 years now. She's my person.
mm-hmm.
So it's my non-romantic soulmate.
Mm-hmm. Those are definitely important to have.
Oh yeah, I fully agree with that, and it's like I was finally able to put it into words yesterday. It just struck me. I was able to write out everything, and then I was like, okay, I guess I'll share it with a couple people. You can have it. You can have it. You can have it. And then I'm just gonna sit here. I'm gonna hide under my blankets and just go, all right. Yep. You guys go ahead. You can read it. Yep. Perfect.
It was good. It was really good.
You feel after, like when people gave you like their thoughts and how they loved it? Did you feel better?
Yeah, it's
Tell the truth.
I was just gonna say it's one of those yes and no where you're like, yeah, it felt awesome to have it be so well received, and then also there's still that little imposter syndrome in the background. They're lying. Just your friends, they're lying to you. Where you're like, oh fuck, I knew it.
I was just about to ask you that. Do you think like when you send your friend something and they go, "Wow, that's amazing," and you're like, "Bitch, you lying."
1,000,000% guilty.
That too. He's like, "Are you lying?" I'm like, "Why would I lie? No. If it's crap, I'm not gonna read it." So
I was like, that's why, like, the people that I chose to send it to, I was like, yeah, these bitches wouldn't lie, because, like, even again, my friend Sonia, love her to pieces. She sent me like she's a writer too, and at some point in time, I will get stuff from her that she'll let me share, so that way I can promote her more. But she sent me a poem that she wrote. She's like, yeah, I wrote this. It was like a 4-line or 5-line poem. She sent it and I read it and I was like, no. Rebecca was like, you know that I love your stuff. Like she writes darker things. She's like me. She'd be more, I'd say she'd probably be like dark romance into like horror genre, like with some of the stuff that she's written. And I love that about her stuff. Like she wrote a poem, and I'll ask her if I'm allowed to share it with you afterwards or let you see it, that I absolutely loved because she did it yesterday, I think it was. She's like, okay, here, I wrote this today, and it's more like Edgar Allan Poe kind of flow to it.
Ooh.
And I read it, I was like, oh my God, I was like, I love so many of the things that you wrote, other than that other thing that you made the other day, because you tried to listen to the, I can't remember, it was one of like an editor or something who was like, oh, well, you know, you should write more like the new age kids are doing it. So you could tell it came across, like I'm sure you two have read stuff before where you can feel that it's being forced and it feels unnatural to the author.
Yeah.
And that was exactly it. Like what she wrote, I read it and I'm like, ooh, that makes me feel icky. It's supposed to be like, I think it was about like some sort of like a happy child kind of thing where it's supposed to be a happiness and happy giggling and all that. I'm like, no.
That's not you.
Don't lie.
You don't write happy things.
Yeah, that was exactly it, where it's like, no, the whole reason why I love your stuff is because it gives that, for me, when I've read her stuff, it does just like what you were talking about earlier, V, where it pulls me into the scene and I can see it, I can feel the emotions behind it. And that's what I absolutely loved. She did, like I said, another poem that was a lot longer. And I read it and I asked her, I was like, would you be mad if I actually printed this out and framed it and hung it on my wall? And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I think, honest to God, it's my favorite thing she's written. And I've loved so many of her things. I'm like, I cannot wait for you to finally publish. And then I'm going to blast you on everything. And I shall be like, yay.
That thank you for saying that, Taylor. V.
You're welcome.
when an indie author publishes, do they self-publish? Like, is that money that's coming out of their pocket for those books? Like, I don't know if that's something you and James had talked about.
I think it is money that comes out of their pockets. So, they do, like, I don't really know the whole process. I know they go through, like, they do the Amazon thing. They have to have a deadline. I'm not 100% sure that process. I've only seen a little bit. Like, I know, like, the Amazon part of it, but not. What was the question?
Could you please repeat the question?
Do they do it themselves? I feel like it does get a little pricey for like it's published.
I wondered because on like the Kindle Unlimited, I'm like, these books are all free. How they pay? Like, how are they making money?
So for Kindle Unlimited, it goes by page count, and I believe I feel like there's a certain time frame that the reader has to be on that page for them to get paid, but it's not even like, it's not a lot of money. They don't get a lot of money on Kindle Unlimited. Like, the people that have it on KU is because they're not really in it for the money type of thing. Because like James is like, you only get like a couple cents per page. Like, it's not. Yeah, they're like, it's not a lot. If anything, it pays more to sell your own book. But then he's like, but then you have that, you know, you buy all those copies and will you sell them? Will you not? Type of thing. So
yeah.
That's why, like, KU is so convenient for a reader, but then I do kind of feel bad. Like, I mean, for me, it's convenient because I can't be buying all these books all the time, right?
Yeah.
But then I feel bad because it's like, it's only a couple cents for the author, like, per page.
Yeah.
But, like, if there's a certain amount of people that are reading it, then it does add up, right, eventually. So, but I know it is a lengthy process, and you got to find, like, an art cover if you don't do your own covers. I know AI is a big thing now, so there's a lot to go to. Like, so I'm the editor, like, I help edit Written Carnage, which is like James is in it along with a couple other people, and like I kind of get to see behind the scenes. Like, I know James and Brooke will do like their own wrap, so they gotta do cover, they gotta take care of that, and it's a long process. I'm like, I don't know if I could do it, but it seems like it takes up a lot of time too.
Crazy. I know. So the author that we have coming on next week is Len Ruth. I
Okay.
don't know if do you follow him on TikTok?
No, I don't think so. I'm gonna have to follow him.
You should. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
So his I wanted to read his books before we had him on, and I think I paid like $4 for two of his books combined, and then like $7 and change for the other one. And that's what like started my wheels turning. Like, is he making money from this? Like, because watching some of his videos on TikTok, you know he's self-published, and that's that got me all thinking about Kindle Unlimited. Like, should I be reading these books for free? Like, am I taking something away from these authors that are self-publishing? So that's why I wondered if you knew anything about that.
I don't think we're taking away from them. I feel like if they put it on there, it's for the readers, right? Like I try to, if I like the book that much, I will buy like the physical. If I want the physical, I'll get the physical. I try more to do that, but I mean, some like KU is so convenient for books are expensive, especially
Yeah, they are.
in Canada. They're expensive. Like in the States, you can get like 2 books for like $15. Here, you can't even get one book for $15. Like it's insane. So
You know
like,
where we should go?
Ooh,
where?
there's books I'm in.
You got a passport, V?
Yeah, it
We
expires
should
in 2 years. Let's go.
we should go across the border, and just off of M10 in Detroit, there's that 4-story used bookstore called King Books.
Yes.
Ooh, I'll go. Yeah.
Yes.
Road trip.
Yes.
I've only been in there once, and it was like when I was in my early 20s, and I bought like 10 or 12 books on like paranormal hauntings, the occult, and it was less than $10.
Oh my God, yes.
Ooh. I'm definitely down.
Yeah.
You had me
yeah.
for less than $10.
I was just gonna say, yeah, you had me at books.
Yeah,
all,
that's
the rest, all the rest of the words were just added icing and filling on the cake.
And now that you've joined the elite club of readers, V, you start to understand that love for. And don't get me wrong, I just turned 53. I've been reading Stephen King since I was 11.
Jesus.
And I just bought an electronic book, the Kindle, last month, because I got to hear the crack of the spine, the smell of the paper,
Yes.
just to hold it in my hands. So this bookstore over in Detroit, you're gonna cry when you walk in. It just smells like old leather-bound books.
Oh, I
like
literally
that.
just got chills.
I like that.
And I think, if I remember right, on the first floor there's like a little coffee shop, so you can like get a coffee as you wander through the books. And there's like these big old comfy chairs you can just sit and read, and it's such an awesome place.
So I will warn you ahead of time. Just as fair warning, like I have a little book goblin in me. Or you know what? I think it's beyond book goblin as I look at all of my books.
You're
I'm
a library. You're a
gonna say,
library.
I'm a book dragon because I hoard books. So there's events here in the greater Essex County area where my mom and I used to go all the time. It hasn't been as much since COVID happened because it shut all of them down. So I'm hoping that more of them keep coming back. But I don't know if you've ever heard of, there was the Terry Fox Bookathon, and I think separate of that was the Raise a Reader Bookathon. So you would go in and you could buy books that were, for like kids' books, they were 25 cents, 50 cents per book. for the paperback ones was $1. The larger soft cover were like $1.50, and the hardcover were $2 to $2.50 per book. My mom and I would go to those, and we would hunt, and come back with hoards. Where I think the biggest hoard we came back with was probably about 60 books.
Ooh.
And it only cost us, I want to say it was like 20 or $25, somewhere around there.
I feel that. I feel that right here.
Yeah.
I went to one about 10 years ago. That was held at Riverside Arena when it was still standing.
Oh, yes.
They had the ice was covered, and they just had, I'm not even shitting you, there had to have been 150 tables just filled with books.
Oh,
I thought I died and gone to heaven. Like, I'm not even
Yes.
kidding you. I looked at Norma, I'm like, see you tomorrow. And away I went, you know.
That is exactly me. And for me, I don't know how you two shop for books, but I feel like you can hear them calling to you. There's some books where you start to walk by, and all of a sudden you're like, I hear
What's that
something.
noise?
It's like, I'm
All
over
calls.
here. Love me, take me. And I think I sent you the video, Dana. This week, where on TikTok, I can't think of the creator's name, but I'm not the one who came up with the book goblin, or what she called Book Holla. So instead of Valhalla, it's Book Holla. And I was like, I want to go to there. When I die, I want to go to Book Holla. That is where I want to go. It's just going to be a giant ass library, like in Beauty and the Beast. I am Belle. That is where I want to go.
Yep.
Oh.
It's like, you know, I've warned the family, when the time comes that Stephen King decides to depart this earth, I'm going to be like the Vince Lombardi of reading. I'm going to have the black armband. I'm going to be mourning. Don't bother me for a week at least.
Yeah, it's a rough time for you.
It will be a rough. I'm going to need you guys.
I was just going to say, we're going to have to be there going, here's a blizzard memory of him.
He was a great man. We love him.
It's okay. Let's go steal his gate doors.
Yeah, you've got 981 of his books. You're okay.
He'll be with you forever and ever. It's okay.
Like, I think he put.
You know what Stephen King book I would like for somebody to make into like a splatter book would be Misery.
Yes.
Very close, because it already has like that, you know, like he breaks his freaking legs and everything. I'm like, that book could go very splattery very well.
Oh,
I just don't know the trademark issues there, but like that could be a really good splatter story. 100%.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, who can write this?
Yeah, the moment where you're like, who wants to take this like 5 steps further?
Right?
She doesn't just come in and go, come here, Mr. Man. No, she just hobbles the fuck out of his entire foot.
So now I wonder if his book Gerald's Game would be considered dark romance. Have you read it, Taylor?
No, I think I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
The husband. Yeah, it's a movie. It's a pretty bad movie. It's kind of a smidge like the book. Husband and wife go to cabin to rekindle their romance. He handcuffs her to the bed, then dies of a heart attack. Yes, he's like on the floor. Oh my god! Like the book. When you're reading the book, you're like, fuck, because you're like, oh shit, who's coming to eat the man? Because like the way he describes it, what she's hearing, because she can't see, right? Mm-hmm. What she's hearing is something snacking on her dead husband. Like it would absolutely, if there was an author that could take it like over that line, that they could turn that into a really dark romance book.
Like, that is, I would argue that would be a dark romance, because it's right, like,
yeah,
you have it something that's plausible. I mean, people die during sex all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, you're like, please let me die during sex. Have the best orgasm of my entire life and just die.
Let me go happy.
That's how I want to go out.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, I would argue and say that would be counted as dark romance just because of how it's set up. And I would probably shit myself if I were in the wife situation going, oh God, oh God, something's eating my husband.
I drive
close all the doors.
I'd be crazy.
I'd probably gnaw off my own hand, to be honest with you.
Oh,
Just to get out.
I would be that bitch that would gnaw through the sinew and the bone and just to get out of it.
Great splatter story. Great splatter story. You got it.
Kayla, you're the writer. I'll give you the ideas, you write.
I mean, ooh.
That's what I do with like a bunch of people, because a lot of people are like, you know, the best writers are avid readers. I'm like, don't even go there. I'm like, I don't want to write nothing. I'm like, I have ideas that I can talk to a writer about, and like if they want to use it in their books, by all means use them. But like, I don't know. No.
Actually, that was legit going to be my next question was, have you ever thought about writing? But that answered that real quick.
Hell no.
I really don't think I could do it. I don't think I have the patience for it. Like they said, like James, for example, he always tells me, like, you know, like avid readers make the best writers. I'm like, yeah, but if you want to write, right? I've never really had that like interest to write. I think writing is hard, to be honest with you. Like I edit, and all of the guys I've written in Carnage, and I see all their stuff, and I'm like, I could not do this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm supposed to Google some words. Like, James uses some words. I'm like, what the hell's that? I got to Google it to make sure it's right.
And you're like, I think maybe I think you spelled that right. I don't even know.
Yeah. You know, the one time I asked them what something was, and I'll never do that again. That's why I go straight to Google. I'm like, wow, okay. But no, it's fun. Like, you know, maybe I thought like maybe in the future I could do like a short story just for fun. But no, I don't mind giving off my ideas to people that actually want to write them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, even I've sent stuff to Dana over like the past 2 years when I started talking more about my writing, where I'm like, you know, one of the days, I don't even remember what the hell sparked the thought, but suddenly one of the days we were talking in our little group chat, and we were talking about like murders and all
two
that.
Of us.
I was just saying, we were like, oh yeah, here we go. We have the different things like how to get away with murder. Like, oh well, yeah, you know, you got to do it on this day, and you got to do it like this and this and this and this. And the idea came to mind where I'm like, you know, it would be a really good story. I think it was because I was playing, weirdly enough, I was playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla at the time, and I was at the part where they had come to Canada, and I was like, that would be really cool or a really good idea. It would be like writing a story about how 3 women cover up a murder of something, like someone truly deserved it, had it coming. They buried them in all the right ways, but somehow they, just in case it gets found, they've made it look like a Viking burial area. And just going with that, where it's like, oh, and then I even came up with the name and all that stuff. And I sent her, I was like, how does this sound? She's like, get to writing. I was like, oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah. I can
You
see
have names for those 3 women?
Well, one's you, one's me, and the third one I don't know.
I think we found her.
I was going to say, third one's going to be Veronica. What happened to the body?
Be a collaboration.
Why are you holding the hands? Were we not removing them from the body? Oh.
I firmly believe that all 3 of us have that one person in our life that we would love to see die a slow, painful death.
Oh, yeah.
I have several.
I was just going to say, it ain't just one. Like, I got a list.
Mine's half the hellhole, but...
for a while.
You're like, I'm cleaning out the herd. I'm doing a cull. Don't worry about it. Why do all these people keep going missing? I don't know. What? Imagine that.
Yeah, because I won't lie. When during COVID and like I'm sitting on my ass for almost 2 years with back-to-back knee replacements, I had some bad thoughts. I had some really dark, did you really think that thoughts?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was like, oh, check yourself. Norm, you're okay, right? It was terrible, but yeah. I mean, I can't write worth shit. I had a hard time doing haikus in grade school.
Oh, I hated poetry. Like, poetry to me is the hardest thing. I think it's why I love Sonia's work so much, because she can write poetry so eloquently and so beautifully, and it flows so awesomely. And I'm like, mine is just a piece of shit as I try to make it all work. And I'm like, no, I cannot do poetry. It makes me angry.
You're like, what's a rhyme for murder?
Murder, murder, bo murder, fee, fi, fo murder, murder.
You do it better. You got a song.
I was gonna say, like, those things I can't do for the life of me in like a million years. And I just watch her, like, she can pop out, like, so she's working on a book of poetry. And I'm like, that to me is amazing, because I can't even do one. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm going for about, I don't know, like 45. I'm like, 45? Oh, Jesus.
Damn.
That would take me so long. Like, I would
Okay.
die before I even got to that.
Okay, I've got it. I've got it. Now we have a premise for the story. We have the three main characters. Taylor, you're gonna write it. Veronica, you're gonna edit it, and I'll do the artwork for the cover.
Yes.
We good?
Yeah. You know what? I am totally down for that, because I cannot draw. I can write shit. I cannot draw shit.
I can draw shit, can't write worth shit.
And
And Veronica can read.
I think I got the easy job. I actually like editing. Editing is kind of fun. A lot
I
of
think
people are
it
like,
would be too.
if you really enjoy it, I think because I'm not a writer, I think. Because every writer that says they're editing, hate it. I have not found a writer that likes editing. But with me, I'm like, I don't mind it because I didn't write it. I'm just reading it like before everybody else, making sure it like makes sense. I'm like, I enjoy it. They're like, you're weird. I'm like, you're welcome.
I would say, from a writer's perspective, the hardest part is, so I have a bunch of stuff that I've written over the years where, like, when I first started off, it was mostly fan fiction based, where it's like, okay, here's the already existing universe. I can go into it. I can write it, and I have an idea of, like, I have to follow these rules. I have to try and make it like flow with the folklore of whatever it is. And one of my first ones, and I'll actually use this because I think I sent it to Dana to read, was I actually wrote, so far, 2 out of the 3 fan fiction novels for the Supernatural show.
Oh yes, I've read those.
Oh yes, I've read those. So I have them written out. The first one, 100% fan fiction, like, uses the characters. I write in their voice because in my head I can hear. So I'm not crazy. My therapist says so. I can hear their voices in my head. Like, I hear the character speaking to me, so that when I'm typing, it's not my voice that I hear, it's them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone through and I've reread that, because it was literally the first book that I wrote was the first Supernatural. Then I got into the second. I'm now into the third. I still haven't finished it. But with each one, you can see the progression of it. Where I go back now and I message one of my friends, like, oh, it makes me cringe. It's like reading my own work where I'm like, I don't like how I wrote any of this. I can't edit. She's like, you can update. I'm like, no, I want to keep it as it is. As much as it makes me cringe, I want to keep it as it is and be like, this is the shit I used to write.
So see, you could publish a book of short stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
You can make our murder a short story if you have to.
You can make
our murder. I've got us planning a murder over here.
Just for legal purposes, let me say this out loud. FBI, CIA, RCMP, OPP, all of the people, we are not committing a murder. We are just talking hypothetically for book purposes. Please do not show up at our homes going, okay, we need to talk. We aren't doing it, we promise.
We posted a video on YouTube. We need to talk about that.
They're like, excuse me, we watched this episode, and you get a little worrisome about, 3/4 of the way through, where we're not doing it. We're just kidding.
Yeah, take a joke.
Yeah,
I think it would be fun though to have that kind of collaboration.
I'm down
Yeah,
for it.
it'd be really neat. Yeah.
I'm gonna say,
I'm
Yeah.
not right.
I'm gonna say, all right, I'll work on writing it. She can edit it. You can then start doing the artwork with it.
I can doodle. Yeah,
I can
because my
doodle.
hand's almost healed.
Yeah, seriously. How you learning how to write? Well, if I hold the pencil like this, I'll be just fine.
I can make a fist today.
Oh my
There
god,
you
look at you go!
Good.
Okay, also just for anyone who's watching this and listening, she's gonna say she got
Yeah.
thumb surgery. Here
Thank
we
you.
are cheering you on.
Right?
So the plastic surgeon told me that my stitches would fall out in 8 to 10 days. It's been 5. This morning I'm like, oh, Norm, my stitch fell out. It's like this long.
You're like, it gone.
He's like, that didn't fall out. It's like I literally watched you pull it out. Like, okay.
Like, what? No.
But seriously, they feel like fishing line. It feels like
Yes.
fishing line in my skin.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's hanging out like half an inch and it's getting caught on my shirt and in my coffee cup and that, it doesn't need to be there anymore. Out you go.
I say worst case scenario, you just put a butterfly stitch band-aid over it, you'll be fine.
Well, Phil's coming over for dinner tonight, so if he has to stitch me up, he can.
Hey, you son-in-law of mine, bring your work supplies.
Right?
I have a job for you.
Probably tell me, oh god damn, I do that enough at work.
So you're like,
That's
look, you're in my
okay.
house, you're eating my food, you can do it some more.
That's right, I cooked you a ham.
Right?
We had a lovely turkey dinner last night
I forgot about that.
and ham today. Oh, done eating.
You're like, ew, eating.
Pretty much. So,
That's what you
well,
say now, but
ladies,
you're gonna miss it.
how long have we been chatting, Taylor? You start the clock?
I did. We've been chatting for about an hour and 20, hour 25 roughly.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Well, I think we can say that we thank you, Veronica, for taking us into the world of splatterpunk and dark romance and horror and all that fun stuff and indie authors. It'll be fun, and you'll come back. You'll come back.
Yeah, I'll definitely be back. This was fun. I enjoyed it.
Oh yeah.
She's gonna have to come back. She's gonna have to talk about our book and be like, so I've been editing.
Right? I haven't seen your project.
Yeah, so maybe in a month and a half we'll have you come back and we'll get Taylor into reading some of the books and then we can really have a good conversation.
Right?
I would say I'm already excited for it.
Oh, it'd be fun. We get Taylor to read the 2 Spirit Crushers, and then we get James on, and the 4 of us talk about the 2 books.
That'd be kind of fun.
That would be.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Fun.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. He's gonna watch this and be all like, "What am I doing now?"
Yeah, when you're sitting there going,
doing it, James. I'm gonna message him after this, be like, so you're going on a podcast soon. Get prepared, get ready, just wait for the messages. He'll be like, okay. Well, because he always knows that I'm his like manager. Because he always comes to me for stuff and I'm like, just do it. Just do it. Just do it. He's like, I can't write. I'm like, just write. And he's like, okay. And it works.
Just right. You got this.
I was gonna say, it's what we both, obviously, he sounds very similar to me, where it's like, I really need to get writing on this project. Sonia sent me yesterday. It was literally just a meme that says, have you written today? And I was like, no, I haven't written today. And then she was like, yeah, the best part is it put the fire under my ass to write, because I was like, I can't send it and not be writing myself.
Right?
Perfect. So we shall say our goodbyes and talk to you all next week, where we will have
fun.
We will have indie author Len M. Ruth joining us. He's got 4 books out, I do believe. I've read 2.5. No,
Ooh.
3. I've read 3 now. I'm going to be starting the 4th. Probably after dinner tonight. So,
Food first, then read.
Mm-hmm.
well, it would be really bad if I didn't socialize with my daughter and son-in-law. You know?
Nice to see you guys.
Oh,
have
hey,
mom
kid,
kids
how's
over
it
there.
going? I'm reading a book. Leave me alone. Okay, ladies. So, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. Tell all your friends about us. Join us on TikTok. You can listen to us on Spotify. Horror us out if you have to.
That was
Please.
good. That was really good.
Okay, bye for now.
Ciao.
Bye.